The Triad is a lively scene as springtime dances in, homeowners are ready to sell, and their built equity is a win. Great homes will be for sale with a new deal behind each door. The Sharp Mortgage Team is excited to help in the spring of 2024. With wisdom and commitment, we'll help you chart your move. A quick conversation and pre-approval will get you in the groove. With pre-approval secured, you'll be steps ahead, you'll see, ready to embrace the home buying journey with confidence and glee. From cozy cottages to sprawling estates, you'll find the perfect fit, and your real estate agent's skill set help and determined grit. With a wealth of knowledge and a heart for your buying success, we'll navigate the housing market, ensuring nothing less. Don't let the media fool you. You deserve a wonderful new nest. With the Sharp Mortgage Team, you're poised for nothing less than the best. Embrace the warmth of springtime, flowers, and skies of blue. Partner with the Sharp Mortgage Team. We're always here for you.
This is the Triad Podcast Network.
I'm Algernon Cash, and you're locked in. Welcome back to the show. As normal, I've got just a delightful conversation for my audience today. I always try to focus on bringing someone who is strong in our business community or oftentimes within our political system. And I got to know this young lady maybe about a month and a half, 2 months ago, but I actually started learning more about Portia's story last year when I actually saw a news report on Spectrum News. And I'm so honored to have Portia Bright Pittman with me here today, who is an entrepreneur, an author, and also an advocate for criminal justice reform. Portia, thank you for locking in with me. How are you today?
I am good, Algernon. First of all, thank you for having me, even reaching out just to have this insightful conversation. I'm so excited to be here today with you.
Yeah, I'm excited too. As I share with my audience, I had the opportunity to learn more about your story through a Spectrum News report last year. I didn't know who you were at all. And, the power of Facebook, I just sort of reached out and connected and took a little bit, but we finally became friends and I was able to have a conversation with you. And I think your story, which my audience is really going to enjoy learning more about today, I think it is so impressive. And I think the work that you're doing here in the state of North Carolina, and really, as I learned after talking to you, work that you're doing all around the country, I think is absolutely critically needed. So I wanted to get you in for a conversation to help my audience learn more about you, the great work you're doing, and just the powerful story that you have. And I guess sort of to kick us off here, the way that I had learned about you is that you had been formerly incarcerated. You had received a pardon from Governor Roy Cooper, and you just shared like a really powerful testimony associated with that pardon. So I guess let's start there with your journey. Can you tell us a little bit about your experience with being formerly incarcerated, and then also just what led to your pardon from Governor Cooper?
Well, being incarcerated was definitely something I wasn't looking to have a part of my life story, but it just so happened that, that is a part of, what I had to endure in order for me to get to this space of advocating for others who are former justice involved individuals. That took place when I was 22. And so from that experience, I decided that, that is something that I didn't want to continue on a repetitive basis happening to me. So I had to adjust my life and adjust my circle, adjust the places that I would be and the things that I would, learn about. And so what I began doing is realizing that after incarceration, there are a lot of things that now I'm no longer privy to, like, having a good job, having health insurance, finding a place to live that is not going to judge me for something that I endured. So I said, hey, I cannot be the only one. And so I struck out to find those, who were the policymakers who were making these decisions. So that way they could actually see someone firsthand who, had changed their life around, who had really been contributing to the community with, volunteering from countless organizations, from various issues to, reducing deforestation and criminal justice reform. So there were just so many ways in which I was just volunteering and trying to make my voice heard and to actually speak up for those who didn't have a voice. And so 15 years later, I guess somebody began paying attention because Governor Roy Cooper granted me a pardon in December, 5 days before Christmas. So what a great Christmas present for sure.
So I guess if I'm hearing you correctly, and I want to go back to a couple of things you just mentioned, I like to pick up on small things. You and other people, I've heard people use this phrase most recently, maybe in the last couple of years, of instead of saying the criminal justice system, I hear people say justice involved individuals. Can you talk a little bit about that phrase? Because I've heard it, but I've never really had anyone explain that shift in terminology.
Yeah, actually, Governor Roy Cooper actually started the Reentry Council Collaborative back in 2017, I believe it was, because we were at a critical time in our state where, we've got people that are transitioning out of incarceration who are just on the streets and eventually are going to commit more crimes. And so he saw the vision that we needed to do something different in our state. So he created the Reentry Council Collaborative, which was a collective of, various advocates from across the state, agency leaders from the Department of Public Safety. And so we all got together. We formulated work groups and began changing some of the language on how we, talk about people who are, you probably heard the term felon or someone like that. But, how you respond to people and how you, call them can really make a difference in how they react to a lot of different situations. And so changing the dynamics on how you talk to people was one of those things that he wanted to change, as well as those in the work groups wanted to change. And so we came up with former justice involved individual. That's someone who they might have a felony, but we don't have to call them a felon, because they're still people too. There are great people out here who, have doctorate degrees, who then been incarcerated, but they changed their life around. So we're not going to, call them a felon. We're going to call them a former justice involved individual because they are people who have experiences too. So those terms have been, going all around the state. People have been channeling the way they talk to people, how they call people, how they categorize people, which I'm super excited about because a lot of work went into those work groups, and they're still continuing to go on today because there are a lot of issues in the criminal justice reform space.
Yeah, I think this part of what you're sharing is pretty interesting. I'm someone who really firmly believes that mindset and the words that we choose to use really do matter.
Yeah.
And words have this ability to sort of create things based on how those words take root within a person's within their mind. And so you hear terms like convict and these kind of things tossed around. I've heard it for years, obviously growing up, but it wasn't until probably the last several years that I started recognizing that tossing those kind of words around really doesn't contribute to the solution, but perhaps maybe even perpetuate the problem. So if I'm understanding correctly, going back to your opening comments, it sounds like you did quite a bit of advocacy work, and through your community work and just being seen through that advocacy work, that caught the attention of Governor Cooper, which subsequently led to your pardon.
Yeah, actually it did. And I want to, people have been hitting me up from all different places. Hey, how did you get your pardon? How did you get your pardon? And, I've been hosting these workshops with NC Works to help those who are former justice involved individuals, get back on the right track. And so as I've explained to a lot of folks, a pardon isn't just something that, is just going to fall in your lap. You have to be living a life that is worthy of, a governor saying, hey, this person does deserve a second chance. And I'm actually going to, give her that second chance with the pardon. So a lot of countless hours of, community service, volunteerism, just staying out the way. Actually, I've never been arrested or incarcerated since that particular time, not even a traffic ticket. I just wanted to be out the way, and I just wanted to make a difference. And so I began, leading my life like that, living like that. And so that's something that, you have to keep in mind if you're going to be applying for a pardon. I'm encouraging everybody out there to apply if that's something that you feel like you're able to go ahead and do, if you're not eligible for an expungement, to apply for a pardon if that's your, only hope. But you got to move forward with living your life in such a way that, you're not going back to jail. You're not, creating issues in your community. Like, you're literally that person who wants to make a difference that everyone can look up to and say, hey, I want to, do something similar to what she's doing. I really want to make a difference too. And I think that will get the eyes of those who can actually talk to somebody who knows somebody who knows somebody who knows somebody to get you those opportunities.
It's time to get serious about your financial future. It's never too early, but it could be too late to get started. And that's oftentimes the hardest part, getting started. How much do I save? Where do I invest? Do I save for college or retirement? How much for each? And who do I talk to about it all? Okay, we'll keep things simple for now and help you answer the last one. We recommend you begin with a local financial advisor. And that's Jennifer Johnson of Three Magnolias Financial Advisors. She'll sit down with you for a complimentary introductory consultation and go over all of your questions. Get started on the path to achieving your financial goals. Visit threemagnoliasfinancialadvisors.com or call 336-701-1600. Get comfortable with your financial future. Three Magnolias Financial Advisors. Retirement, financial planning, and investments. Securities offered through Cetera Advisor Networks, LLC, member FINRA SIPC. Investment advisory services offered through Three Magnolias Financial Advisors. Three Magnolias Financial Advisors and Cetera Advisor Networks are not affiliated. Cetera is under separate ownership from any other named entity.
When we talk about the justice system and obviously people who get incarcerated, you hear a lot about the need for personal growth and rehabilitation. I think those words are all oftentimes tossed around. It's beyond clear to me. I mean, even just just a few minutes into our conversation today, it's really clear that you took all that extremely serious. You took that to heart. You really acted on it. Why was the experience so motivating for you? Like, what really truly caused you to respond this way to the issue? Because you could have responded a different way. I mean, it could have went a whole new way for you.
Yeah, for me, I didn't want, I'm more of a prissy girl, you know what I'm saying? I like to go get my nails done. I like to be doing girly stuff. So being in handcuffs in a jumpsuit was really a cultural shock for me, not wanting to be in that space and then figuring out dang, my life is about to change because of this. I have got to do something different. And so I began just figuring out ways that I can do that, even through my struggle of not being able to, pay my light bill or find somewhere to live. I began still working through that struggle to find out solutions that I could actually, make a better living for myself. And in the meantime, still advocating for others. So for me, it was just a no-brainer. There was nothing that was going to take me back into that situation. Locked up 24 hours, actually 23 hours a day. I just wanted to do something different, Algernon. So that's how I began living my life. And I always was an entrepreneur in general. Anyway, I grew up, my grandparents had a little convenience store in the neighborhood where they sold candies and sodas and chips and things like that. So I was always around folks who were business oriented. Just so happy, just being in the wrong situation in the wrong crowd really changed the dynamics of a lot of things for me. And so I just wanted something different. And once you want something different, you'll make up your mind that you're going to be doing some different things. And that really helped impact my life in a lot of ways. Also got some great mentors who were, willing to stick their necks out for me and, talk to employers and get me jobs. And I also began managing campaigns for people who were elected into office. I actually managed 2 campaigns, one for a citywide campaign, and we won that campaign, and then actually went on to manage a North Carolina House campaign, then won that campaign, and then everybody wants a winner on their team, Algernon.
That's right.
So that kind of took me forward to be in a space of what the conversation I had with God early on is. I have got to get to the table with the decision makers, and he must have heard the sincerity in my heart because that's what I'm doing today. Literally working in the North Carolina General Assembly with the decision makers. And so I've been doing that work for about 8 years now, and it's been life-changing for sure.
That is such a powerful testimony. And often through my whole locked in philosophy and concept, people always ask me, what does it mean to be locked in? And I talk a lot about the need for powerful self-discipline. That's what it means to be locked in. It means to be able to do things that maybe you don't feel like doing, just like everybody else doesn't feel like doing it, but you find that internal motivation. You lock in on whatever that purpose is, and that allows you to make choices and decisions that a lot of other people can't make. And it just sounds like you've had such a powerful shift in mindset. And I'm so happy that you are sharing that not only with my audience, but with audiences across the country, because it's a powerful story. A lot of people need to hear it. You are out advocating for reform within the system. What are some of those reforms that, if Portia was the Speaker of the North Carolina House and she could control the agenda for a week, what would Portia do?
Algernon, that is a very good question. It's funny that you mentioned that, because I actually, over Halloween, everybody's dressing up in their costumes. I actually dressed up to be the Speaker of the House. The first,
and I didn't know that. So my audience, we did not plan that. I did not know that. I'm just speaking it into existence,
Now, for those that be asking me out there, when you're running for office, Portia, no, I am not thinking of that. It was just me envisioning what would the first Black speaker be a woman, exactly, a woman Black speaker look like. So I just wanted people to envision it. So that's why I did it for last Halloween, seriously. So for me, if I became speaker for the day, first of all, I kind of feel like I want to get rid of these two different parties. It's just too much going on, like too much static, too much like people against each other. I want to get rid of these two parties. Like, I just want people to just vote for the issues, vote for the person, don't matter what party you're affiliated with. Just vote, okay? Vote for the people that are really going to go out here and do the best for you. It doesn't matter what party that you are a part of. That's the first thing that I probably would do. We caucus in together, okay? I don't care what the issues is. We caucus in together. We're going to talk about this together in one room. Number two, I think I would really fund education, Algernon, because that's one of the most important things that we have, educating our young people. Like, I've heard that all my life. You need to go to school. You need to make sure you're listening to your teachers. You need to make sure that we do have good teachers in school. So I think I would definitely, those would be my two things, Algernon. Getting rid of the two parties. It's going to be one party. You're just going to be voting for the person who you think is going to do the best for you. And number two, funding education completely. Like, that is a no-brainer for me. We're not arguing over that anymore. Like, it's a done deal on that for me.
Well, those are two big ones, especially some of the political party reform. I think myself and so many other people could agree with you. I do wish that we could move to a system that would just be nonpartisan. I think some of these issues that we debate are so critically important, and I'm not convinced any longer that Democrats or Republicans have a monopoly on good ideas. So it's we probably would do better working together and a little bit more unified. Our founding fathers tried to warn us about these political parties. It's so strange to me how we quote our founding fathers all the time when we're talking about the Constitution, but we sort of ignore this really important advice they gave, which is to stay away from these political parties. They knew that it would create disunity and so forth. So those are really good points you made. And I agree with you on education too. That's critically important in terms of being able to create the right kind of economic mobility in our communities so that everyone really has a fair shot at the American dream. One thing I'd like to get you to comment on, given your past experience and the advocacy work that you're doing, what are some ways that communities like cities and towns across North Carolina can better support formerly incarcerated people?
Well, for me, I think cities and towns, I think we need to open up some of these opportunities and these companies that are coming to, the different counties. The governor is announcing a lot of new companies that are coming to our state for economic development and all those type of things. But I think we also, we need to work on allowing these people to get jobs, allowing these people to get affordable housing opportunities. I think this will reduce recidivism ultimately across the board, because when a person feels like their back is against a wall, they're literally going to turn to the things that they're most familiar with. And for some people, they might not have that support of someone saying, hey, I'm going to come and give you a job, or hey, I have this apartment over here that you can get until you're able to get on your feet. So I think we need to open the opportunities for jobs and housing, which are two of the biggest things that we need. I was so happy when Medicaid expansion came to our state, because I work with a lot of lawmakers who have since retired now from the General Assembly, who were knocking on doors for Medicaid expansion to be in our state, literally. And that's because health insurance is so important. A lot of people that get out of incarceration, they have mental health issues. They have health issues. So if you can't get a job, you can't get a house, you have no health insurance to go to the doctor when you need to, you are literally going to be finding yourselves in compromising positions that could get you back in jail. And so I think those are the two things that I feel like counties across our state need to work on, is our hiring practices and choosing folks to live in certain places so that way they can actually make a life for themselves.
Who's ready for movie night? Our friends at the Ginther Group Real Estate are proud to sponsor another season of innovation and cinema at Bailey Park in downtown Winston-Salem's Innovation Quarter. The next film is Everything Everywhere All at Once and will be shown on Friday, May 17th. Bring your chair or blanket to Bailey Park for a great night of cinema from Aperture and food from a variety of local vendors. Pre-film fun begins at 7 p.m. and the movie starts at dark. These magical movie nights are made possible by the Ginther Group, the real estate experts we trust and showcase here on the Triad Podcast Network. Check their social media for info on each upcoming movie night. And for your real estate needs, call 336-283-8689 or visit theginthergroup.com. Buying, selling, investing, or just learning. Whatever you need, start now. And like me, you can become a Ginther Group client for life.
I was watching, I don't know if you've seen this documentary. It popped up. I'm a big documentary person. So when they pop up in the suggestions on my TV, I'll normally watch them, especially on the weekend. And there's one out, Portia, I think it's on HBO Max, and it's called Justice. And it's a 6-part, like 6-episode series. And they follow some defendants that are going through the jail system in Nashville, Tennessee. I mean, very, very powerful. And they really show it from a few different dimensions. And the point that you just made about mental health, I thought was really important, because they talk about that oftentimes people that are coming into the system are really in need of medical help or a doctor or psychiatrist, not necessarily needing to go to jail. And then you also have people that obviously end up in jail because of drug abuse. And so you could argue that that's not a criminal issue as much as that's a mental and a health issue or healthcare issue. And then I started thinking about, I'm good friends with Sheriff Kimbrough here in Forsyth County, and I know Sheriff Rogers over in Guilford County very well. And you think about when they talk about their jails and the way the jails are often ran, it's almost like they're designed to humiliate you or put you in such a discomfort position that I guess you just never want to come back. Do we also need to be do we need to be shifting how we treat jail? Do we need to redefine how we look at these detention centers on a county by county basis?
I think, Algernon, you made a very important point right there when you said shifting the way that we look at detention centers. We definitely need to, because when you think about incarceration, it's supposed to be to rehabilitate folks and get them back prepared to go into society. So you imagine someone just sitting somewhere for 23 hours a day, just looking at a wall. That's not rehabilitation. And especially if they have a mental health issue, that's really going to take them into a different zone. And so I think we're seeing a lot of sheriffs across our state who are over these detention centers realize that, yes, we have to do something different. Like Sheriff Paula Dance, she's been doing the educational opportunities where people can get certified to become electricians while they're in jail, and figuring out ways to, offer therapy like plant therapy in the detention center. So there are a lot of opportunities that we can actually use the detention center to really rehabilitate people before they transition back into our communities. Like, for instance, getting a community college to come into those jails or detention centers to really get people signed up for, certification programs when they get out, because there's already going to be a stigma on them that, hey, I've been locked up. Now, what am I going to do now? Everybody's looking at me, but that is really a critical time where you can actually change your life. And I feel like those community colleges would play a really big role in helping people get back on their foot.
Portia, and I'm going to run out of time. I'm going to have you back on because this is such a powerful conversation. I can already see my audience is responding to it a little bit. There's an argument, and I'm going to get your thoughts on this. How do we close this particular gap? So you've got the general public who maybe they've never had an issue with the law. They've never been in a detention center. They've never been in the court system. You say the majority of the country, right? I mean, they don't have any true experience with the system. Then there's, advocates like yourself. I've shared on this show that, my own niece was in jail most of last year on a gun charge. And, I saw the impact and effect that had on my family and my mom and my sister and everybody who was so concerned and worried about her. And so, there are people that have had upfront experience with the system. Now, when you talk about reforming our detention centers and creating the programs and the things that you're talking about, there's some people out there that are going to say, well, hey, wait a minute. This is jail. It's not college. It's not the Marriott. It's not the Hilton. It's jail. And it's supposed to be rough and it's supposed to be hard. Now, I agree with you that we need to be looking at some reform measures like more programs, really treating it like a rehabilitation center so that we don't have the recidivism that we constantly see. But my question is this: how do we close the gap with the general public? Because it's the general public that's showing up to vote for that sheriff. It's the general public that's voting for those members of the General Assembly that you work with that look at these kind of issues. How do we re-educate the public about this?
Well, I think, I've heard that so many times from people that, hey, why are we treating these people with such comfort, even though they've committed crimes? But the truth of the matter is, Algernon, this issue, nobody's really exempt. I mean, you got people who, Ivy League schools who are being incarcerated, and because they might have a little bit more money, they might be in a different space. And so the criminal justice system is going to affect us all. Either we're going to be helping those people stay out of jail, or we're going to be paying for the jail that they're housed in. So we're all impacted by this issue. So it's important for us all to be educated on ways that we can help reduce recidivism. It's better to be a part of creating a solution than a part of creating a problem. And so I feel like people, need to do their due diligence, have those conversations with their sheriff about, ways that they can help, make the community a little bit better in spaces, even if they already have programs already out there for people to help them get educated. Because, the truth of the matter is people who are former justice involved individuals are people that have dreams too. They want to do great things, just so happen maybe they had, a bad situation in their childhood, or maybe they had a bad moment in their life. There are so many reasons why people end up in the criminal justice system. And so it's important for us to really keep an open mind on ways that we can help them. More funding opportunities for mental health and substance abuse treatment. I think these sheriffs are really doing a great job in some of these counties across the state that I've been able to experience, by, helping people who are addicted to fentanyl and helping people, get access to, those, what do you call the things when they OD, Algernon?
The Narcan.
Yes, where they're having these vending machines where people can come and get that kind of stuff for free. So there are ways that people can get connected and we can actually close this gap. But you have to have an open mind, because again, we're all going to be affected by the criminal justice system, whether we like it or not.
100%. Whether you're spending any nights in that jail or not, your tax dollars are certainly going to support it. And the people who are in and out of that detention center, whether you recognize it or want to admit it or not, these are your neighbors. And so your community is only as healthy as the individual members of that community. So I'm going to make sure. In fact, I wrote down, we're going to do a roundtable conversation. I'm letting my audience know this now. We're going to have a roundtable conversation. We're going to get Portia back on to be on that roundtable. I think we're going to invite a member of the State House, and then let's also get maybe Sheriff Kimbrough or Sheriff Rogers to come and be on that roundtable. We're going to have this conversation again. We're going to go a little bit further and a little bit deeper with it, because I've really enjoyed a lot of the points that you've made and highlighted. I don't want to run out of time completely without mentioning your book, because in addition to you being an entrepreneur and an advocate and someone who's very passionate about the community that surrounds them, you also have a book that's called There Ought to Be a Law, A Bright Day at the State Capitol. It's actually a children's book for any parents that might be listening, for 6 and up. Portia, for some parents that might be tuning in right now, talk a little bit about the book.
Well, A Bright Day at the State Capitol came about with me actually working in the legislature. I was actually working for Butterfield at the time, but she would actually always, be busy with committee meetings and stuff like that. So one day she told me we had about 40 some students coming for a school visit. And so she told me to go talk to those students about how laws are made in the General Assembly. And of course, my stomach was hurting, Algernon, because I've always been one of those people that kind of like to be to the back, I'll be taking notes and all that kind of stuff. But I guess she was seeing something in me. And so she was thrusting me to go to the front of the room to, really share that knowledge that I was, actually receiving from her. And so I did that. Long story short, those students wrote me 40 some letters talking about how I helped them, how they want to be lawmakers one day. They learned so much, and they even had the little pictures that they drew and colored and stuff. So that impacted me because I didn't think I was making a difference. I was just doing what she told me to do. But I wrote the book because I felt like children needed to know how laws are made in our state and the reason why they come on those field trips to go to the General Assembly. So There Ought to Be a Law, A Bright Day at the Capitol is all about educating people on how laws are made and how to advocate when you go out to elect those lawmakers and to try to get them into office. And of course, you can find that at brightbooks.org, where you can find all my other books as well. I actually have books for kids for 3 and up.
And just go to the website, Portia, and they can find all that.
Yeah, brightbooks.org.
Now, are you working to get this into any schools or organizations?
That is a good question, Algernon. There Ought to Be a Law, A Bright Day at the Capitol, is being taught in schools in Illinois, in Spanish though, because I actually have it in English and Spanish. So it's being taught already in schools. Hopefully it'll be in North Carolina at some point. But you can catch it at any major bookstore as well. I'm all everywhere talking about this book, and hopefully I'll continue to change lives and really impact people in a positive way.
Well, I know that we've got some members of the General Assembly who listen to the show. I know Treasurer Falwell listens to the show. I'm good friends with Mo Green, who I firmly believe might be the next state school superintendent. So we are going to work to make sure that we get this book in North Carolina schools, not just in Illinois and a couple other states. We want to make sure that you are well represented right here in your backyard. Before you head out, any other projects coming out that we should be on the lookout for, and then make sure you drop any of your social media and website so my audience can go find you.
Yeah, I actually have a new book out right now. Keys to Changing Your Life, A Second Chance Perspective. You can actually find that at brightbooks.org as well. Of course, you can connect with me at Bright Books Club on all social media outlets. I'll be there sharing more information about any projects that I'll be doing in the future. And so I'm so thankful, Algernon, for you having me on this show. Like, this has been an experience, and I'm really going to be looking forward to that round table for sure.
Yeah, I'm so thankful to finally be connected with you. And you are a new friend. I will tell my audience I've not met Portia in person yet. We've only had phone calls, but we're going to change that as well. And then I will get you a date. We're going to put together another roundtable conversation, see if we can go a little bit deeper on this sort of criminal justice reform. I thought we started a great conversation here. So thank you for being here, Portia. And always to my audience, thank y'all for being here. Thank y'all for locking in. Make sure you stay tuned to WTOB, because every Sunday morning, that is where the Locked In Show broadcasts. But if you happen to miss me there, hopefully you're subscribed to the podcast. You can always download that on Spotify, Pandora, Apple, wherever you like to get your favorite podcast. You can lock in there. And as always, until next time, y'all stay locked in.
Hey, thanks for listening to this episode on the Triad Podcast Network. Our mission is simple: provide information, advice, and stories about the people and places that make the North Carolina Triad such a great place to be. You can find us by searching Triad Podcast Network on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, pretty much wherever you like to listen. If you like what you heard and want to support the show and those that contribute, we would truly appreciate a rating and review on your favorite podcast app. It helps spread the word along, as do your shares on social media. You can find us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram at Triad Podcast. To get in touch with us, simply email info@triadpodcast.com. Thanks for listening.
This is the Triad Podcast Network.